Hi. It is Sunday, May the 3rd, and we are 1 week closer to winning this battle with COVID-19. I'm here today to give you a quick update on where we stand in the ongoing battle and to help you, hopefully today, begin to create a bit of a strategy for how you're going to live out the next year or year and a half when we move beyond this initial lockdown and you return to a more normal way of life. We all are going to need a strategy for how we're going to live in a way that's sustainable, but that really does help to safeguard us and the people who live around us. But first, a quick look at the numbers. You're probably like me and sort of shocked and amazed at the numbers of people who are so vocal and still trying to say, well, this whole thing with COVID-19 is a big hoax, it's being overblown, it's really not nearly the news story that they're making of it. And the truth of the matter is, when we look at what's happened in the last 3 months, and especially in the last 5 or 6 weeks, that's just truly absurd. In 5 and 6 weeks ago, as we were moving into the month of April, the thing that we were constantly hearing is we've got to flatten the curve, and that was the main goal, and we certainly succeeded in doing that. We all saw the graphs where the way the numbers were exponentially increasing, we were going to see a vast number of cases that would have run up into the millions, and we would have seen at least 1 to 2 million people would have died in the U.S. by early summer, and by flattening that curve, we've seen that drastically change. That's the good news, but the shocking thing that no one predicted is we didn't just flatten a curve, we've eliminated the curve. There is no curve at the moment. What we have is a flat line. We created a plateau by all of the lockdowns, all of the stay-at-home orders. We indeed stopped the exponential spread of the disease, but it's been shocking to see that for almost 5 solid weeks now, the numbers have remained almost completely flatlined, with 30,000 new cases per day in the United States and 2,000 deaths per day as the average. This was the case the first week of April, mid-April, the end of April, and for the first 2 days in May. We've stayed at exactly the same place. So on the one hand, that's good news that we've slowed the spread, but the bad news is, with all of the measures that have been taken, with schools and universities being closed, with churches being closed, and restaurants and bars and businesses being locked down, that all we could do is achieve just a point of stasis where we're not seeing the disease suppressed at all. And that's the disturbing thing about the fact that we're about to reopen things, is that we haven't seen the numbers going down. And a quick word about those numbers to try and get some frame of reference about that. In the month of April alone, we saw 60,000 deaths in the United States from COVID-19. To put that in perspective, in 10 years of the Vietnam conflict, we saw less Americans killed in those 10 years than we saw killed in the 30 days of April from COVID-19. If we were to average February, March, and April, the 3 months that we've been battling this disease, with most of the deaths happening just in April, but if we average the deaths over those 3 months, the total average for those 3 months is greater than the number of Americans killed on average per month in World War II, combined with the total number of Americans killed in the Civil War. If you look at that on a monthly average basis, more Americans are dying from this disease. And of course, in World War II, that incredibly bloody day in June of 1944 that we refer to as D-Day, when so many people died on the beaches of Normandy, the number of Americans who died that day was 2,500. Well, in April, we saw an average of 2,000 Americans die every day, and on April the 16th, we saw far more people die from COVID-19 than died on D-Day. So it really is an absurdity to think that, oh, things are really not that serious. This is a very efficient killer, and right now it is working very effectively. So we're going to have to, as we begin to reopen businesses and churches and restaurants and bars, we're going to have a strategy for how we're going to survive this thing and how we're going to adapt some lifestyle changes that we really can live with for a year or two. A quick reminder of the 4 things that I told you last week that you need to keep in mind as we move forward. 1, there are future waves coming, and there almost certainly will be at least one wave later this year, either the summer or the fall, that'll be much worse than the wave we've seen this spring. Secondly, the government's not going to be able to bail us out the way that they have, because they just don't have the money to continue to do what they've done. The third thing, there's no silver bullet coming that's going to completely eliminate this disease through a vaccine or through some drug treatment. But the fourth piece to remember is that it will burn itself out. This thing is going to mutate, and within probably the next 1 to 2 to 3 years, it's not going to be nearly as big of a threat. And with those things in mind, we have to to adopt a strategy that doesn't rely on the federal government or on the healthcare community to save us from this. We're going to have to make the adjustment. So let me mention some things just to get you thinking. You're not going to adopt all of these things, but think along these lines and think in terms of 1 to 2 year strategies. Could you, for the next year or two, let's think first in terms of entertainment and travel. Could you just for a year or two decide we're not going to take any really big trips, we're not going to travel outside the country, we're not going to take cruises, and in terms of entertainment, maybe we'll avoid going to college football games and pro sporting events and major concerts, these large gatherings, for just a year or two. Think in terms of local gatherings, the places where we gather socially. That would be in places like restaurants, coffee houses, bars, and churches, where we tend to interact with people on a pretty close basis. Could you, for the next year or two, adopt a strategy that says, when I'm at church, I'm going to try and attend a service that's not really heavily attended, and I'm going to try and sit as far as I can from other people. I'll be sure and wear a mask every time that I go to church. Or whenever you go to a restaurant or to a coffee house or even a bar, could you go to those places that have outdoor seating, and could you opt for the outdoor seating? And when you want to go to restaurants that don't have the outdoor seating, for just a year or two, could you continue to opt for takeout? Go have a picnic, take it home with you, but try to avoid settings where you're going to be indoors for extended periods of times that you can't be wearing a mask. Now, thinking beyond that, just in terms of things like trips to the bank, trips to the pharmacy, for a year or two, continue to use the drive-through options. When doing grocery shopping and other types of shopping, shop online as often as you can, or do the ordering where you just pick up whenever you go to the grocery store or to Walmart or to Target. Trying to just minimize the contacts that we have when we're out shopping. And when you do have to go in shopping, wear those masks, which is another important reminder in terms of developing a strategy, whatever length of break that we get. And no one's sure how long this is going to be. We don't know if the next wave will be in summer or in the fall, because we don't know how temperature sensitive this particular coronavirus is. So whatever length of break that we get here, use this time as an opportunity for you to begin to collect the resources that you're going to need. Gather a few masks for every member of your household. Make sure that you get your hands on things like hand sanitizer and disinfectants, not in massive quantities, but things that are going to get you through for the coming months, for the next year or two, and use those things regularly. Think in terms of the things that you don't have to do that you have done in the past that create close contact situations, whether that's going to have your nails done or going for a massage or any other place that's going to put you face to face with someone that you really don't have to do that. So think in terms of strategies where, could I delay getting my teeth cleaned every 6 months, or going for a massage, or having my nails done? Could I, for the next year, take care of my own nails? Those types of things. Think through those as changes that you could live with in the short term as we return to a more normal way of life. And then one final thing that I'll mention, and this is the hard one. If you work in a career field that is one of those close contact careers where you're going to be right up next to people and it's not an essential thing that people are going to have to go back there, you may have to think in terms of a strategy where for a year or two, you either move into a different career field temporarily, or you scale that one back and look for a second job, because some careers, quite honestly, are not going to be sustainable for the next 12 to 24 months. And we're going to have to all come up with a plan that gets us through, where we don't rely on the government, where we get creative about how we do this. We are going to make it through this, but we each have a role to play to keep each other safe and to keep ourselves safe. I know right now exhaustion is setting in for many. People are saying, I'm tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of thinking about it. We've just got to get back to a normal way of living. We can return to something that looks a lot more normal, but we need to make some little adjustments that are going to help to keep us safe. Let's each do our part, and we will get through this together. I'm Mark Price, reminding you to stay in touch, stay safe. For the moment, stay home as much as you can, and always remember that you are loved.